So the reading is taken from, Luke chapter 15, which is page 42, 43 of these pink books. And Thomas is going to read it out, I think. With a microphone. Excellent. Very good. Oops. It's fine.
Okay, so like Dave said, this is from Luke 15, verses 11 to 32. Jesus continued, "There was a man who had 2 sons. The younger one said to his father, 'Father, give me my share of the estate.' So he divided his property between them. Not long after that, the younger son got together all he had, set off for a distant country, and there squandered his wealth in wild living. After he had spent everything, there was a severe famine in that whole country, and he began to be in need. So he went and hired himself out to a citizen of that country, who sent him to his fields to feed pigs. He longed to fill his stomach with the pods that the pigs were eating, but no one gave him anything. When he came to his senses, he said, 'How many of my father's hired servants have food to spare, and here I am starving to death? I will set out and go back to my father and say to him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and against you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son. Make me like one of your hired servants.' So he got up, went to his father, but while he was still a long way off, his father saw him and was filled with compassion for him. He ran to his son, threw his arms around him, and kissed him. The son said to him, 'Father, I have sinned against heaven and against you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son.' But the father said to his servants, 'Quick, bring the best robe and put it on him. Put a ring on his finger and sandals on his feet. Bring the fattened calf and kill it. Let's have a feast and celebrate. For this son of mine was dead and is alive again. He was lost and is found.' So they began to celebrate. Meanwhile, the elder son was in the field. When he came near the house, he heard music and dancing. So he called one of the servants and asked him what was going on. 'Your brother has come,' he replied, 'and your father has killed the fattened calf because he has him back safe and sound.' The elder brother became angry and refused to go in. So his father went out and pleaded with him. But he answered his father, 'Look, all these years I've been slaving away for you and never disobeyed your orders. Yet you never gave me even a young goat so I could celebrate with my friends. But when this son of yours, who has squandered your property with prostitutes, comes home, you killed the fattened calf for him.' 'My son,' the father said, 'you are always with me, and everything I have is yours. But we have to celebrate and to be glad, because this brother of yours was dead and is alive again. He was lost and is found.'"
Amazing. Thanks, Thomas. Please, guys, do keep that passage open in the Bible, or the Luke's Gospel account, which is taken from the Bible. This evening's passage is about lostness. And I don't know if you've ever lost anything really valuable. Maybe you've lost your phone, lost a wallet, passport. I was prepping my talk earlier in the Independent Cafe in town, and I was trying to think of a way of starting the talk, and I couldn't think of a way of kind of getting the conversation going. And anyway, I kind of decided to head back for supper. And I'm staying with a friend of mine, one of the ministers in town, Vaughan Roberts, who's the rector of one of the churches here. And as I got back, I was like, let me get myself into the house, and he's given me his key, and I put my hand in my pocket. It's like, where's my key? I've got the key here somewhere. I know I've got it somewhere. Checked all my pockets. Like, this is ridiculous. Come on, this is shocking. And it was pouring with rain. My coat, every pocket. I was like, I've lost my key. And so I'm knocked out of the house. And then eventually someone came out of the house. I kind of snuck in and thought, I need to find my key. This is so embarrassing. I can't lose the key of someone's house. And I went in. I was like, please, God, help me find my key. And I kind of ran upstairs, dripping with water, opened my bag, shook everything out. And there was the key. It was in. I was like, yes, the key. And I was like, this is amazing. And our passage tonight is about lostness. And it starts off with a shepherd who loses one sheep. And he finds it and he puts it on his shoulder. He's like, yes. Or then there's a woman who loses a coin. And she finds it. She's like, yes. And then there's the sons in our passage. And the wider story is how much heaven celebrates when something lost is found. Now, it's called the parable of the lost son. If you can look in our passage, keep it open, please, page 42, the parable of the lost son. Actually, it could be called the lost sons. And these little bits of black text, that's not actually Bible, that's the kind of editor who's commented to assemble it, but it's actually lost sons. The immediate context for our passage is verses 1 and 2. So if you've got your books open, look at verse 1 and 2 at the top of the page, a big number 15, and this is what we read. Now the tax collectors and sinners were all gathering around to hear Jesus. But the Pharisees and the teachers of the law muttered, "This man welcomes sinners and eats with them." Now, crucial to the background of this story is that Jesus is talking to these two different kinds of people. On the one hand, you've got your tax collectors and your sinners. The tax collectors are the religious outcasts. They're the bad guys. Some of those were Jewish people who had conspired with the Romans who were occupying them, and they were taking money from their friends. And these tax collectors, these sinners, they're the kind of bottom of the barrel. They're greedy. They take advantage of people. They're on the one hand. And then you've got the religious and the teachers of the law. And they're perceived as the good guys to themselves. They're the religious gatekeepers. They're the vicars. They're the theologians. They're the Christian Union leaders. They're the top, the cream of the cream. And these two people are the background to Jesus' story. But we're going to see two massive twists in his story as it was read out. It's maybe the most famous story that Jesus told. Maybe you've heard it at school assembly or in college chapel, or you've just picked up the story of the lost son. We're going to see two massive twists in the story. And here's the first lesson. Big twist. There are two ways to be estranged from God. There are two ways to be estranged from God. On your first reading of the parable, maybe your fifth reading of the parable, virtually all the attention is on this runaway son. And we're going to think about him in a second, but the fact is both brothers, the younger son and the older son, are estranged from the father. I first got this from the writing of Dr. Timothy Keller, who used to pastor a church in America, and the father in the story represents God. And what we're going to do, we're going to walk through this story, and we're going to see how both sons are lost and estranged from God, the Father. And as we do so, it's going to be a bit like holding up a mirror to us. And I wonder whether you can see yourself somewhere in the story. Maybe you're here just kind of checking it out and wondering what it might look like to follow Jesus Christ. I wonder, can you see yourself somewhere here? Whether you're male or female, we'll all see where we stand with God, I think. Two ways to be estranged from God. Some of us are estranged from God, like the younger brother, by what you might call living it up autonomy. Living it up autonomy. So have a look down in our passage. So this is verse 11. Jesus continued, "There was a man who had two sons. The younger one said to his father, 'Father, give me my share of the estate.'" And let's face it, the art of getting money out of the oldies is a classic skill that I hope you've mastered already. You may have heard the joke of the couple whose son was away at university, and one morning the wife gets a bit worried and says, "Darling, when did we last hear from Dan?" And the husband says, "Let me just check in the checkbook and find out when I last heard from him, because we ask for money and they give us the money." Well, the younger brother is in Jesus' story saying he's not simply having an advance for his allowance, the younger son, to demand a share of the inheritance while the father is still alive. What's that saying? That's saying, "Father, I wish you were dead. I wish you were dead. Why don't you just go and die and give me my stuff that is coming my way one day? Can I have it right now up front?" Now, how does the father feel, do you think, at this point? How does he feel? His father's poured out all his love for his son. He's invested love, attention, affection, devotion, all thrown back in his face. Do you see the line at the end of verse 12, little number 12? It said, "So he divided his property between them." So from now on, the father's got to live with maybe 2/3 of the property of his wealth. Only it's worse than that, because the word for property in the original is the word bios, which is where we get the word biology from. For the father to free up money to give to his son literally means breaking himself apart. His life is being ripped open to give money to his son. But the son doesn't care. Verse 22, you'll see. Verse 12. The drinks, he divided the property among them. Not long after that, the younger son got all he had, set off for a distant country, and there squandered it in high living. The drinks flow, the girls swoon, the nightlife seems to be the high life, one long freshers week, and then the money drains away. and he's left in the mud, feeding pigs, unclean pigs. We think that's smelly, but if you're a kosher Jew in the first century, it's a sacrilegious thing. Deeply, deeply offensive, ceremonially unclean pigs. Seemed like freedom for this boy. Living it up, autonomy, actually became slavery. People can play the younger brother role in different kinds of ways. Some of us are estranged from God with our autonomy by running after stuff. And we looked a couple of days ago at the parable of the guy who just wanted bigger barns, bigger barns, bigger barns. Let's eat, drink, and be merry, for tomorrow we diet. And we just kind of go after it now and then forget about the consequences. We indulge in all that life has to offer. That's one way of doing it. Others actually shun materialism and run away from it all. But they're still autonomous, free spirits. There's a profound illustration of this in the movie Into the Wild, which is based on the best-selling book. It tells the story of Christopher McCandless. Christopher is an American college student. He's disillusioned by the materialism of his age, and he decides to go into the wild. He runs away into the wilds of Alaska looking for purpose and meaning. If you want to get something in life, reach out and grab it, he tells people. But he goes off, and he crosses streams and mountains, and he catches whatever he can find. He ends up, though, sadly being trapped downstream of a fast-moving torrent and is cut off. And it looks like freedom, but eventually, sadly, he ends up dying away from everyone else, imprisoned in a world of his own. That was, of course, one of the messages of the movie Frozen, which was at the other end of the cultural spectrum from Into the Wild. Elsa, the Snow Queen, can sing, let it go, I can't hold on to it anymore. Turn away, slam the door. I'm sure we all know the song. She thinks, living it up, I want to be free. Live it up, autonomy. Be yourself. It actually led to slavery for Elsa. Everything is turned to snow and ice. She's trapped into her own frozen castle. She might be the older sister in Frozen. She's more like the younger brother in this story. Many people are estranged from God that way. I don't want your constraints, God. I just want to push you away and run off into freedom, do my own thing. I don't want to live up to anyone's standards. I might run after stuff. I might run away from stuff. But either way, I'm doing the running. I'm doing the pursuing. You can clear out, God. Two ways to be estranged from God. Living it up, autonomy, one way. Second way, the older brother is estranged by what you might call keeping in line, conformity. And you could equally be estranged from God that way too. Keeping in line, conformity. Now, Luke 15 explains it's equally dangerous as far as any potential relationship with God is concerned. And it might be more dangerous because it's so much harder to spot. So we're going to fast forward through the story and jump to verse 25, little number 25. So it's halfway down page 43. Halfway down page 43. Meanwhile, the older son was in the field, and he hears the music, the dancing, and he is fuming. How dare you, father, welcome him? Let's listen to the venomous outbursts. He was near the house, he heard music and dancing. He called one of his servants and asked what was going on. Your brother has come, replied, your father's killed the fatted calf because he has him back safe and sound. The elder brother became angry and refused to go in. And you can see that this older brother is just as estranged from his father, just as estranged as his brother was. He can't even bring himself to address his father. What does he say? Have a look down, halfway down verse 29, little number 29. Look, all these years I've been slaving for you. He describes a relationship with his dad as that of a master servant. That's what he's meaning here. No tenderness from this brother. No love, no compassion from the brother. He only can refer to this, doesn't talk about his brother. He says, this son of yours. I can't even call him a brother, this son of yours. This was the happiest day of his father's life. If you've ever lost a key or a wallet or a phone, try losing a son or a daughter maybe. One day if you become a parent, you lose a child, you think, where have they gone? Estrangement, the son has come back. And so this is the father's greatest day. This is matriculation, this is graduation, this is wedding, first child, it's a celebration, first job, yes. What's lost has been found, everyone's celebrating, and yet the older brother is standing firm, fuming at what's happening. Just think of the shame that would bring on the father. Just think of it. No doubt the whole community has come around. They've killed the calf. It's on the spit, roasting around. The barbecue is going for, the corks are popping. Next door neighbor says to the father, oh, where's your eldest son? You've got two sons, haven't you? Yeah. He won't come in. He's just around there. How shameful on the family. You see, for all the protestations of loyalty of that older brother, the faithfulness of the older brother, his kind of reining himself in moral conformity, I've been a good kid, he's actually as estranged from his father as his other brother was. He's running from God in a different kind of way. If the younger brother, let's think about it. Remember how we began with the two different people, the two groups of people listening to Jesus? They were the Pharisees on the one hand and the teachers of the law. Sorry, the Pharisees and then the tax collectors and sinners. Well, the younger brother maps onto those tax collectors and sinners. Well, the older brother maps onto the Pharisees. God owes us, they think. We've done all this for you, God. We've done all this. We've slavishly conformed with the rules. We've been religious. We've said our prayers. We've been carbon neutral. We're on the good side. Surely accept us, God. We've disciplined ourselves. Hard work, early mornings, late nights. Everything we've got, we've earned. Thank you very much. We're the best. Aren't we great? We don't spend all our money on wild living like that son of yours. And you can imagine the Pharisees eyeing the tax collectors. They don't deserve anything from you, God. They deserve nothing. We're the rightful heirs in this story. We should get the fatted calf. We deserve it, God. How dare you give what we deserve to those people? God, we hate that. We hate you. The story is told of a gardener who worked for a very wise king. And because this gardener loved the king so much, he gave the king an enormous bunch of carrots. And the king rewarded the gardener with a huge plot of land within his kingdom so he could grow more carrots. Anyway, there's a local sneaky courtier who sees what the king gives to the gardener and thinks, wow, an acre of land for a bunch of carrots, what an amazing deal. So the next day, the sneaky courtier goes up to the king and says, hey, wise old king, I've brought you a magnificent horse. And kind of stands back, rubbing his hands, waiting to see what happens. And the wise king sees right through him and simply says, thank you for the horse, and sends the courtier on his way. And the courtier's like, whoa, I'm devastated. Like, what are you doing? And the king says, well, the gardener gave me the carrots, but you gave yourself the horse. He gave out of love for me. You gave out of love for you in the hope of a reward. And that is exactly what this older brother has done all his life. He's worked hard because he is doing it for himself. Look what I've done for you, my standards. I've conformed, I've kept in line, I've reined myself in. I'm so good. Jesus is like, it's love for self. You're loving you. There are two ways to be estranged from God, lost as far as God is concerned. The younger brother, the older brother, both estranged. That's our first lesson, but there's a second lesson from Jesus, and it's great, great news. But God's lavish grace reaches out to them both. God's lavish grace reaches out to them both. That's why we call the Christian message good news. Sometimes we call it gospel, which basically means good news. You see, this story of Jesus, the story of forgiveness, is good news. It's great news for both kinds of sons. And again, this is profound. And maybe you hadn't spotted it when you first read it. It's good news if you lean towards more being like a younger son. It's good news if you lean towards more being like an older son too. And the hinge in the story is the pigsty. So put your heads down to little number verse 17, right at the bottom of the page. When he came to his senses, he said, how many of my father's hired servants have food to spare, and I am starving to death? I'll set out and go back to my father and say to him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and against you. And the young man in the pigsty realizes that the crucial thing about broken relationships is that whoever you've sinned against, ultimately, whoever you violated, it's a vertical thing first and foremost. I have sinned against heaven and against you. Any broken relationship is fundamentally a broken relationship against God before it's a broken relationship with others. And anyway, he continues his speech in the pigsty. Look down in verse 19, top of page 43. I'm no longer worthy to be called your son. no longer worthy to be called your son. Make me like one of your hired servants. Presumably he's already planning on how he can pay back the money to his father. So he got up, and in verse 20, you can imagine every step of the way he's nervous, isn't he? He's nervous, he's just kind of stepping back. Every step, he knows he's for it. He's going to get it in the neck when he goes back. Do I really press on and face a beating with my dad? No, I'll go back to the pigs. No, I can't stay with the pigs. I've got to go back. He's walking back, and he's thinking, I'm going to go back. I'm going to go back. And he's rehearsing his speech. I don't deserve to be called your son. I'll be one of your hired workers. He's walking back. His heart's pounding hard. And then his father sees him when he's a mile off. And his heart triple beats. He can't believe I'm dead. He's going to kill me. He's going to kill me. I'll go back to the pigs. And then we read verse 20. Look at verse 20. But while he was still a long way off, his father saw him and was filled with compassion for him. And he ran to his son and he threw his arms around him and he kissed him. Well, he's a long way off. He knocks the boy to the floor, slams him to the ground and kisses him. My son, you're home. He breaks his heart. Parents can be so embarrassing, can't they? It's always funny watching a first year being dropped off by a mum or dad at the start of the year and trying to shimmy out of a kiss from dad. Yeah, it's so cute watching it. I don't know if you remember trying to do that yourself, but when dads or mums just like throw themselves on you, they're full of love. Full of love. And if this is embarrassing for the son, how much actually more embarrassing is it for the father? Maybe we miss this in the story. Middle Eastern men don't show emotion on their sleeves like this. They certainly don't hitch up their clothes to bare their legs like a little toddler and slap a massive kiss on the grubby, pig, swilled cheek of the son. You would never do that. Deeply shameful. Well, the boy is off guard, and then he recomposed himself. Father, listen, shush, Father, listen. The father's like, shut up, I'm going to take the hit myself. Don't you try to do anything for me. I will absorb all the shame and the guilt. I'll take it on myself. I'll take the social hit. I'll take the financial hit. To forgive someone always takes a hit for you, doesn't it? You're going to forgive someone, you've got to bear the hit yourself. I'll take it on me. Quick, says the father, bring the best robe, the finest linen, cover the boy's nakedness and his shame. Kill the fatted calf, put sandals on his feet, the ring on his finger. The ring suggests he's back in his place as his father's son, right in the heir of the family. The fatted calf, the most expensive food that would fill a whole army. Certainly would fill all of us this evening. Let's have a feast, let's celebrate. But this son of mine was dead and is alive again. He was lost and now is found. So they began to celebrate. This is the story of forgiveness, lavish. Grace is the word that I've used and the Bible uses. It's a gift from God that we don't deserve. We can't earn it. Don't deserve it. It's just a free, lavish gift of grace. Now, there's no surprise Jesus is telling this story. Why do you think he's telling it? Well, he knows, actually. If you kind of zoom out of the story, remember, he's on a journey himself. He's traveling north to south. Actually, he knows that it's the grace of God that bears its legs, so to speak, and runs down not from Galilee to Jerusalem, but from heaven to earth in the person of Jesus Christ. Jesus is the faithful Son, sent from the Father, who runs to seek and to save those who were lost. It's costly grace of Jesus that not only sees the fatted calf killed to restore the estrangement and the lostness, but to see the Son of God himself killed, which is where he's going. He himself offering himself to die on a cross in place of all the brothers who've run away, for God treated Jesus there as he died, as if he were you or me. So he could treat you or me as if we were the beloved Son of the Father who never put a step wrong. Crucified on Good Friday to pay for our sins and risen again on Easter Day to give us new life. This Son who was dead is now alive again so that we, the lost sons and daughters, can be found. That's why Jesus is telling the story, because he's part of the story himself, all completely free, a gift of God's grace. You know, there's a Buddhist version of the prodigal son story. I don't know if you knew that. There is, and it's written in another ancient text. In the Buddhist version of the prodigal son story, the younger son comes back and gives his speech, and he is made to work as a slave in the father's house for years and years and years, as the lowest of the low, until he pays back the debt. There's none of that in the original. God's grace is so free. He loves to welcome back you, whatever you've done, however you are estranged from God. Loves to welcome you back. And it's that the elder brother can't swallow. He can't stomach it. He can't stand how grace levels the playing field. That whatever you are, whoever you are, whatever you've done, whatever you've run after, however you've spent your life, if you come back to God, He'll rush towards you in love and throw His arms around you and embrace you and clothe your shame and put a ring on your finger and welcome you as His beloved son or daughter into His family. But you know what's really amazing about this grace of God, this love of God, this amazing forgiveness of God? The amazing thing about His grace is it does not simply rush out to the younger son. Again, I was so struck when I first clocked this. But God's lavish grace reaches out to the older son as well. Amazing. You see, God isn't judgmental to the judgmental. He's not a Pharisee to the Pharisees. He's not critical to the critical. He pleads with older brothers just as much as He welcomes younger brothers. He pleads with them both to come home and join the party, to be welcomed home in His embrace. Hence that moving exchange towards you. Dig out these little books. We're nearly done. Let's just kind of wrap this up. Verse 28, near the end of our passage, halfway down the page, the elder brother became angry, refused to go in, so his father went out and pleaded with him. You've got this older brother outside, a complete hump about all these fireworks, the barbecue, the celebration going on, but the father's not going to be silenced. What does he say? Verse 31, my son, the father said, you have always with me, and everything I have is yours. But we had to celebrate and be glad because this brother of yours was dead and is alive again. He was lost and is found. The father is as tender, isn't he? How tender is the father? He's that tender as his son is bitter. And it's his older son's only hope. Of course, the older son wants justice. Be just, Father. Come on, be just. Look at what I've done. You pay me back with justice. Where's my calf? Where's my robe? Where are my sandals? Where's my ring? Where's my money to spend with my mates? How can that creature, that son of yours, how can he get it all and have it back in? How can he have celebration? Give me justice. Friends, it's not justice that the older son needs. The story is told of a photographer who ran a studio, and a crusty old lady went in to have her portrait taken, and she flapped about and fussed about over her hair and the lighting and the angle and the focus and powdering and the makeup. And at this point, the photographer's patience is nearly breaking. And finally, he's about to take the photograph, and the woman leaned forward and said to the photographer, young man, I hope you'll do me justice. At which point, something within the photographer snapped. He couldn't bear it any longer. He said, madam, it's not justice you need, it's mercy. Well, so too the elder brother who's longing for justice. It's not justice. Father, give me justice. He doesn't need justice. He needs mercy. Don't call for justice from God. That's not what you want from Him. You do not want justice. He could rightly justly send you away. You need mercy. And He is a God who delights to give mercy. There are two ways to be estranged from God, but His lavish grace reaches out and rushes out to us both. Just as we close, I'd love us to think just for a moment. I said we read this story. It's very possible to see a mirror in the passage as we read. And I wonder where you see yourself. Do you see yourself as the younger son, a hair's breadth of walking out from God? Maybe it's a relationship. Maybe it's something you're going to do. Maybe it's a decision you're about to make and you know you'll regret it and you think, I'm going to just keep running and running and running and hiding away from God. Maybe you are the younger son right now. In verse 13, you've already set out, you're on the run, and you're feeling that you're living it up, you're autonomous, and you're yet to see that freedom actually becomes slavery. Well, it's coming, friends. It's coming. Maybe you're the elder brother, verse 25, and outwardly you're quite religious, and you conform, and you do all the right things, thank you so much, and outwardly you tick all the boxes, you've gone through the rituals, but inwardly, you grew up going to church, and mum and dad believe, but you're not sure where you stand, and in here, it's pretty hollow, and you feel like, well, at least I'm in. Maybe you can earn your way to God somehow because of all the stuff you know. No affection for him. Friends, if that's you, can I urge you, wherever you see yourself in the story, come back to God. Would you listen to his plea to come back to you? His arms are open, wide. His welcome is precious. His forgiveness is rich and deep. This is a story of wonderful, wonderful forgiveness. There is a Father who loves you. He's got the greatest celebration to be had ahead for you. Don't stay far off like the younger son. Don't stay outside like the older son. Come in. Come home. I imagine we are all on a different part of the line. Maybe some of us, say this side of the line is someone who knows and loves Jesus Christ and knows they've had a relationship with God restored, and that's where you are. But it may be that you're way over here, and you know you're over here, and you feel like, not for me, thank you so much. If that's you, I'm so glad you've come. Thank you for coming, and you're welcome to take one of these and keep reading it, and I'd love you to do so. It may be that you're somewhere kind of in the middle, and you're not yet there, but you're not here. And you think there may be something in this. Well, the Christian Union do an event on a Monday evening called The Search. We'd love to encourage you to come along to that and keep asking questions and exploring the truth claims of Christianity. But it may be that you're a bit more over here. You've been doing the search. You're no way over there. You're not yet here, but you're kind of feeling maybe it's getting close to me stepping over the line and actually trusting in Jesus, saying sorry for what I've done, saying thank you for what you've done. Would you please forgive me? And you don't need to use those words, but I've got some words I'm going to put on the screen, actually, and this will be a prayer that I'm going to pray, and you don't need to say it exactly this way, but let me read these words out to you. Dear God, sorry for what I've done, trying to live life estranged from you. Thank you for what you've done, reaching out to me by sending Jesus to die on the cross and rise from the dead. Please forgive me and change me by your Holy Spirit so that I might live for you from now on. Now, that is a prayer that you could pray. In fact, I'm going to pray it now and invite you to just close your eyes if you'd like to, or just sit quietly. And if you're at that end, please just humor me. And but maybe you're somewhere further up the line and think, I need to accept this invitation to come. And so I'm going to say this short prayer, and then there'll be a chance to have a bit of a discussion in our groups, and then we'll be done. Okay, so let me say these words now. Dear God, sorry for what I've done, trying to live life estranged from you. Thank you for what you've done in reaching out to me by sending Jesus to die on the cross and rise from the dead. Please forgive me and change me by your Holy Spirit so that I might live for you from now on. Amen. Well, if you have prayed that prayer, that is a wonderful thing. And I'd encourage you to talk to someone, maybe even today, maybe the friend that brought you. I'll be just towards the back. I'd love to chat with you if you'd like to speak with me. In a little while, there'll be a chance to to respond. We've got some kind of QR codes on the screen and an opportunity for you to just give us a bit of feedback. And one thing you might do is say, I prayed that prayer. I'd love someone to chat with me, and we'd love to keep in touch and get in touch with you if that's the case. And you have begun an amazing journey, which I began many years ago and haven't regretted for a minute. Anyway, we're going to go into groups now for some discussion. And because it may be that you're not over at that stage, but you're a bit further in the middle or even this way. But here are some questions which I'd love you to have a go at talking about just for maybe 10, 15 minutes or so in our groups. We know we've kind of overshot the time a bit, so if you do need to head, that's fine. But a little bit of time discussing in groups, and then I'm going to hand over to Hannah and Han will pop up in a few minutes just to formally wrap things up. That's great.